And the third person who needs to stop dieting is the person who is hyper focused on staying too lean. Now, this person is already near or below a healthy body fat for physiological function. And this might be someone who's been dieting for a long period of time. It might be someone who's naturally smaller and tries to push even leaner for no real reason, no real goal. Now, in the case that you're a bodybuilder and you have a bodybuilding show and you're getting ready for it, that's one thing. There is a deadline. There's a point in which you are going to come out of it, hopefully. But if you're just staying extremely lean year round with no goal in sight, there are some pretty meaningful health risks that you're exposing yourself to. Not to mention regressions in training performance as well as mental burnout. Listen, we glorify low body fats in fitness culture without really paying mind to, is this healthy for the individual? But it's not always healthy and it's not always beneficial. And some people might handle it fine, but for many, this is going to objectively have effects on their hormonal function. So when we look at women, like this can manifest as losing your cycle. Men might even experience low testosterone if body fat is too low and they're not using exogenous testosterone. Now, another issue we see, and this is going to be applicable to both genders, is a performance drop. If you're so lean that every training session you feel depleted and you can't push strength, you can't push performance, you have to understand that there is eventually going to be a point where this translates to how you look. And if you're unable to maintain performance, sure, you can organize your training differently or you can modify it in a way to where you're doing more volume. But realistically, there is a ceiling. And the more that you push up or even past this ceiling, the greater risk of injury you expose yourself to. And let me just say, like, there's two ends of the spectrum. There's the individual that knows that they're too lean. They are just simply afraid of letting it go. They're unable to gain weight because mentally they're like, I need to white knuckle this. I need to hold on to this body fat. But they're very much aware that this is a detriment. They're aware of the sensations, and their body is sending them very real signals that they need to gain weight and they need to eat more. Now, the other end of the spectrum is the individual who's a little bit in denial, who thinks that they can just keep pushing, who thinks that the food fixation is normal, who thinks that the overarching fatigue that they experience pretty much every day and the hunger pains are just a part of the process. And I would say, yes, like generally these are expected symptoms of being at a low body fat. But for this other end of the spectrum, we have to see that this individual doesn't understand the detriment to the physique that they're posing by putting themselves or by maintaining this body fat level for so long. Depending on where the individual is in terms of their awareness and their buy-in to this necessity to gain body fat, this is ultimately going to dictate how you approach this, I guess, coming from the POV that you are offering solicited advice, or you are, someone that they've asked input for, whether that be a coach or a trusted friend. And in this case, if they are aware that body fat is too low, but they're very anxious about gaining weight, this is something that I think education can serve a really important role in. So explaining how overall, if their goal is to have a really rockin' physique and like they want to make improvements in their body composition, it's very difficult to do this when you're at low body fat percentages, just from the notion that like you're not going to be able to progress training performance. So if the individual needs more muscle, it's probably a good idea to get them out of this danger zone. It's probably best if they come up closer to a maintenance. And what you have to realize is that even at maintenance, even when you're starting in a low body fat, if you're not eating in a surplus, the weight isn't going to come on. So depending on how active this individual is, depending on what their non-exercise activity is like, they might be able to get away with eating a lot more food than they even realize. And I think this is incredibly important if the individual is struggling with adherence, if they're struggling with food fixation, if overall just being super lean is impacting their ability to have social freedom and overall is generating more stress. So I think that's an option if that is you, or if that's someone you know. You just like walking them through like, hey, if your goal is to look better and to improve your physique, I think getting really clear on what their goal is helpful. But if that is your goal, if you are listening to this and you're like, I'm too fucking lean, but I'm just like nervous about gaining weight, understand that like you aren't going to progress your physique in the state that you're in. And that's really, I guess, a good way to punctuate that part of it. Now, what about for the individual who's getting ready for a competition? I mean, I kind of walk them through the same mindset and really appraisal and look at, okay, we're getting ready for this show, but post show, we should see body fat come up pretty significantly in those first 4 to 6 weeks, not necessarily to balloon up, not to gain a bunch of body fat, but to put you in a position where you can begin to recoup and recover hormonally, because realistically, you only got this lean to get on stage. And if we maintain this, this is an asset if the goal is to get on stage. But if the goal is to get into a build, then we need to move you and transition you really out of this phase systematically. And I think a lot of people, this is where they get it wrong. They think that they need to reverse out very slowly. But when we're talking about someone who's at such a low body fat percentage and is being impacted on a regular basis from a hormonal standpoint, but overall, like global standpoint, systemic standpoint, we do need to ensure that they are not sitting here for the sake of sitting in this state. And for this individual, it might be worth considering, why are you staying so lean? And if it's for competition, great. Once the competition's over, what is your plan to transition out of this? Do you have target set points that you're going to try to hit in terms of body weight, or really just physically a look that will allow you to be more productive and feel a little better? But if there's no compelling reason and you're feeling really run down or physically very compromised, raise your calories slightly and just let your body recover. And listen, there isn't a single body fat cutoff that I can declare for everyone, but you know when it's messing with your health and with your relationships. And if you're unclear about that on the health side, this is something that I would definitely recommend getting labs done in the case that someone is convinced that hormonally they are healthy. And even more specifically for a female athlete, I would want to look at whether or not they're ovulating and get that confirmation on lab work. So it's not as simple as just getting estradiol and progesterone checked and seeing that they're within range. We also need to time them accordingly as to whether or not it's around a time that these hormones should be higher. And if you're not, and we've timed things correctly, this is really good evidence and proof for the individual or for yourself to indicate that, hey, your body has decided that all non-critical functions can go, which sadly reproduction is a non-critical function when in severe caloric deficits.